Hi guys, it's Brent from Black Crow Gaming here, and I'm here to talk to you today about Death Gaurd. This was originally going to be 5 weaknesses of Death Gaurd, but for any of you who've played them recently, they might not have 5 weaknesses. They are pretty good. They're solid, they're undercosted. So instead, this is just going to be 5 general pieces of advice when you're pieces of advice for when you're playing into them, what to expect, and how you want the game to go so that you're not smashed, so that you have a fighting chance. Before I begin, I would like to thank our sponsors, Glasshammer, Terrain Forge and Trident Futureworks. They've been amazing at supporting us here, and with Glasshammer use code BLACKCROW for another 5% discount. Okay, Death Gaurd, what's happening with them at the moment? Well, they're winning. Not gonna lie, they have a reasonably good win rate. It's 55%. This isn't like the highest we've seen this edition. However, at the moment, it is probably one of the highest of all the armies out there. So I think that speaks more about the health of the game. One of the things with them is they have an X1 win rate of about 20%. So what this means is about a quarter of their players are going to almost win or like get to the top end of tournaments. So I think this is a bigger indicator that they play really well into the current meta. And why are they doing this? Well, a lot of their units are undercosted, probably by about at least 10%. So over the whole army, if they dropped 150 points or got 150 points more expensive, then I would expect their win rate to drop only by about 2 or 3%, but that'd be more healthy. And I think their X1 win rate would drop dramatically. So another thing is when they got dropped is they just had a really good codex. A lot of people have, like custodies, for example, have good data sheets, but worse detachments. And then mid stratagems, Death Gaurd got really lucky. They have multiple builds with good synergy. You can run Terminator heavy, you can run vehicle heavy, you can run lots of plague marines. There's almost every single unit in the book has a place, and the different play styles really help them out. So what are we going to do about them? Well, say you come up to your first game, one thing that almost every Death Gaurd army will have is screens, or units to push their contagion range quickly. So the two that I use mostly are Poxwalkers and Spawn. Spawn have been champions for me recently. They are really good with their scout. You can deploy them aggressively, and then either scout them forward or scout them back, as everyone knows. And then what they do is they have such small bases, or only 250mm bases, so they can get into combat or get into somewhere awkward to shoot at. And in combat, if you go in to try and kill them, then every successful wound roll you do does a mortal wound back to you effectively. It might be on a 4+, I can't remember off the top of my head, sorry. But this means that if you've got like a unit you might use to clear screens, so I use JPIs mostly, being a Death Gaurd or a Blood Angels player. And when you throw those JPIs in there, if you swing high and you go, yes, I'm going to kill these Spawn for real, and then you get like 6 mortal wounds back and kill half the squad off, suddenly you haven't traded up at all. In fact, you're in a position now where you've got a unit which is basically broken, and your opponent won't have to commit much to deal with them. So Spawn are very difficult to deal with. Try and use indirect, try and use shooting, try and basically not hit them in combat, or hit them with a unit you don't mind losing. I personally now bite the bullet and think, right, that I'm going to oath them, I'm going to try and kill them in combat. I'll try and do impact mortals. I will try and do grenades if I've got access to that. I will try and basically anything before I actually hit them in combat, but you have to deal with them. Poxwalkers are annoying because they're not easy to kill. They'll normally sit behind a L-shaped ruin or something you can't shoot at them with, and they're just there to expand the contagion range. Turn 2, they will probably advance right up the board, put a unit in contagion range, and then drop a unit of Blightlord Terminators down, or sorry, Death Shroud Terminators down. But these guys you can actually kill in combat, and sometimes you just have to bite the bullet early game, lose a unit, trade poorly, but then you've cleared their screens, they can't push their contagion range as quickly, and it puts you in a good place to carry on the game. Movement, movement, movement. So Death Guard aren't fast. They're not slow by any means, but they're not fast. So they don't have a lot of access to a lot of assault or advance and charge. So what you have to do is you have to pre-measure a lot when you're playing with them, figure out the safe spaces, and try and figure out where they're going to be. Because they're not fast, they do have some movement shenanigans, like with their Death Shroud. However, you know roughly where they're going to want to be to score secondaries, you know where they're going to be to try and score primary, and because of that, you can just avoid those places. Or you can anticipate where they're going to be. Because when they drop, they then have to stay in that area. So if they try and play wide across the whole board, any unit they drop on one side isn't going to be able to support a unit they drop on the other side. So focus on your movement, and they will punish you if you make mistakes, unfortunately. But hey ho, don't look that tough. So when they first came out, GW said that Death Guard were going to be the custodies of chaos, and people have sort of agreed with them. They are an incredibly tough army, but they're not custody level. They don't have their 2-up armor save, they don't have a 4-up invuln save. They are just marine bodies that are toughness 6. Now that sounds bad, but because they're toughness 6, the Terminators are toughness like 7 to 9, and a lot of the tanks that they take, like Plague Burst Crawlers and Bloat Drones, they're toughness 9 as well. So you can focus on taking weapons that are about that strength 9-10 area, if you know you're going to be playing Death Guard, and it sort of lets these weapons be effective into anything that your opponent brings. The only thing that is really scary is if they have like a Mortarion at toughness 12 or the Demon Prince at toughness 12. But on the whole, they are marine bodies. You can kill Plague Marines. They are going to try and hide because they have shenanigans such as fights first. If they're taking epoxies, they've got 18-inch low nops. But if you can get things that are good into Marines into them, it helps. So I like playing Whirlwinds into Plague Marines because I know that it picks them up quite efficiently. I like playing things that do like area of effect mortals, or just out OCing them. If I'm playing Imperial Guard, I'll just put 10 guardsmen on a point and be like, here you go, I'm out OCing you, you have to come out from behind your ruin, and then I can just kill your nice squishy Space Marines. They're tanks, so they do have access to basic Space Marine tanks like Rhinos, Predators. They have access to some unique things, so they've got their Defilers, they've got their Bloat Drones, and they've got Plague Burst Crawlers. Now, the things that I'm seeing a lot of, Plague Burst Crawlers and Bloat Drones, they are toughness 9-10 wounds. So they're actually... They do have 5-up invuln saves, so sometimes you're going to pump like anti-tank into them and it'll just bounce off. But if you've got like a Vindicator, or if you've got a Lehman Russ, if you've got good tanks, they can deal with their tanks quite efficiently. The problem is they're cheap. Their tanks are cheap, so trading with them is difficult, especially Plague Burst Crawlers. So hopefully they'll get a points increase to make it fairer on everyone else, because it's awkward when you play and you try and tell someone like, yeah, this Plague Burst Crawler which is hitting you on 2s, winning you on 3s, he's just gonna he's 90 points. Leaders are wimps. Well, once again, the leaders aren't wimps. Well, some of their leaders aren't wimps. So there is a lot of synergy that their leaders give to a Death Guard army. So Plague Marines have fantastic leaders. You know, the fights first, the lethal 5s, sustained hits. All of these are things that really benefit Plague Marines greatly. So the benefit is the lieutenant-esque leaders that can go with Plague Marines generally only have 4 wounds, no invuln, so if you've got any sort of precision weaponry, especially ranged precision weaponry, and you can get it into them, it really reduces the lethality of those Plague Marines. Unfortunately, a lot of the other characters are hard to kill, and they have area of effect goodnesses, so a Lord of Contagion, Morty, the mini Morty Demon Prince, these guys are tough to kill. However, because they have such good abilities, it's definitely worth investing units to kill them. Like Morty's area of effect abilities are phenomenal. The shoot back, the fight on death, the reactive move, they're all great. And the Demon Prince's ability of -1 CP, I build armies around it sometimes, especially if I'm playing champions. They're phenomenal. However, so if someone, say, rapid ingress a Vindicator, advanced it up and killed him, I would be sad. That would affect my game plan greatly. And it slows them down, like especially with the Demon Prince. He's a mainstay in a lot of lists, so taking him out early is a good way to get to make them feel the hurt. What don't they have? So I've sort of told you some things to watch out for, and now this is, if you're playing into Death Guard, these are some things that you won't really see, and sometimes that's helpful because you can build your list to take advantage of that. So apart from the Terminator attachment, Mortarian's Chosen, they don't have access to no uppy downy. So where they deploy their Terminators, that's where they're going to be. So if they, as I sort of said, if you can sort of anticipate where they're going to drop and then use your movement to skedaddle, then their Terminators aren't doing anything effectively. And also it means that if you can screen your backlines, or if you have some units such as infiltrators that they can't deploy within 12 inches of you, it's just about slowing them down with Death Guard and making them not get where they want to be to score points. They have limited assault, advance and charge, and that means pre-measuring against them is much easier. You can see their threat ranges and, plan accordingly. No deep strike area denial. So Inceptors now basically most armies, or a lot of armies, have a 6-inch deep strike unit somewhere or have access to one, and because of that, the no deep strike area denials, if you can get behind their lines and force their Death Star units to come backwards to deal with units, because Poxwalkers, or the unit of Poxwalkers they might have in their home base, they're not killing anything. So if you drop anything or rapid ingress anything behind them, it's going to be difficult for them to deal with that. Try and also you can rapid ingress something in, like in front of their lines, that like 12 inches away, knowing that they're not going to be able to charge it or shoot it very easily. So yeah, rapid ingress and 6-inch deep strike are really helpful tools to use against Death Guard. Expensive units might mean that they don't have as many as you, so they'll have screen units. They might have a couple of units of Poxwalkers and Spawn, but then a lot of the other units, like 10 Plague Marines, are quite expensive. If they're taking units of more than 3 Death Shroud Terminators, then that can be upwards of about 400 points, especially with a Lord of Contagion. So if you can bring more units to the party than they can, eventually they'll run out of cheaper units, and they'll have to start using expensive units to do actions, which no one wants to do. No one wants to use their Death Star unit to, retrieve Nachman data or whatever it's called in this edition. So, yeah, hopefully these all help you. All this advice helps you play into the new Death Guard, and hopefully they'll have a little tap on their points soon. Thanks for watching, guys.